Dawn broke over the crystalline forest, casting prismatic light through the ancient trees as Sylvain Whisperwind rose from her simple bed. She brushed long silver hair away from her pointed ears and gazed at the small cottage she called home for. The past 70 years. A humble dwelling for someone who once commanded the respect of the Eastern Elven armies. Her exile had not been declared officially. Yet everyone knew. The whispers followed her everywhere she went. Dragon tamer, oath breaker, wild one. Sylvain stepped outside into the cool morning air and whistled a three-note melody that echoed through the trees. A moment passed before a massive shadow swept overhead, blocking the sun. Zephyr descended into the clearing, his midnight, scales shimmering with hints of deep purple and blue. He folded wings larger than sailboats against his serpentine body and lowered his head to meet her gaze. The bond between them flowed like an invisible current. Sylvain felt his hunger, his joy, at seeing her and the lingering pain in his left wing from an old battle wound. She pressed her forehead against his snout and shared her own feelings through their connection. You slept poorly again. The dragon communicated without words, images, and emotions flowing between them. Sylvain nodded. She had dreamed of the attack again. Void walkers breaching the Silverleaf settlement while elven sentries stood unaware. The mechanical aliens with their crystalline armor absorbing magic around, them leaving cold, empty husks where proud trees once stood. We should warn them again. Zephyr suggested, his amber eyes glowing with concern. They will not listen. Sylvain responded through their bond. They never do. She gathered her sparse belongings into a leather satchel worn smooth with age. A curved hunting knife fashioned from dragon-scale metal. A crystal map sphere showing terrain for 500 miles in any direction. A chain of silver leaves marking her former rank as forest commander. The council meeting was today, the 7th this season. Each time Sylvain brought evidence of Voidwalker scout ships, each time the High Council dismissed her claims, Counselor Beatrice with her elegant robes and practiced sneer would surely lead the opposition. She had never forgiven Sylvain for bonding with Zephyr, an act considered treason since the Great Purge, when dragons were declared enemies of elvenkind. 500 years had passed since then. Most elves believed dragons extinct, a convenient myth that kept the populace calm. Sylvain mounted Zephyr, settling between his shoulder blades where scales had grown smooth from years of carrying her. The dragon launched into the air, powerful wings propelling them skyward toward the elven capital, Luminara City. From above, the elven lands appeared peaceful. Ancient trees with trunks wider than village huts stretched toward the sky. Elven settlements nestled within their branches, connected by delicate bridges that looked like silver spiderwebs. Magical lights illuminated homes carved into living wood. Everything in harmony. Everything except us. Sylvain thought Zephyr flew high above the cloud line to avoid detection. Despite her intention to address the council, directly Sylvain preferred to arrive unannounced. Fewer chances for Beatrice to arrange an unfortunate accident on the road. The capital appeared on the horizon, a sprawling wonder of organic architecture. The dawn tree at its center rose 20,000 feet into the sky, its massive branches supporting the palaces of noble houses and government buildings. Zephyr descended at the edge of the forest where the tree line offered cover. Go hunt. Sylvain told him through their bond. I may be, sometime. The dragon hesitated, radiating concern. I will be fine, she assured him. Even Beatrice would not dare attack me openly in council chambers. Zephyr reluctantly departed, vanishing into the dense forest with surprising grace for a creature his size. Sylvain watched him go, feeling the familiar ache of their bond stretching thin with distance. She pulled a hooded cloak over her distinctive silver hair and made her way toward the city gates. Guards in crystalline armor stood at attention, their expressions hardening as she approached state. Your business, Commander Whisperwind, said the taller guard, emphasizing her former title with barely disguised contempt. Council summons. Sylvain replied, sliding a crystal token across the checkpoint desk. The guard examined it, holding it to the light to verify the magical signature. The council chambers await your wisdom, she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. The other guard snickered. Sylvain ignored them, walking through the massive living Archway into Luminara City. The streets bustled with elven citizens going about their immortal lives. Merchants sold enchanted trinkets from carts, while scholars debated philosophy in open-air forums. Children with pointed ears practiced simple magic under the watchful eyes of tutors. None met her gaze directly. Some whispered as she passed. Others made subtle warding gestures against dark magic. The isolation hurt more than she would admit. Even after centuries, Sylvain climbed the spiral pathway winding up the Dawn Tree. Each step took her closer to the council chambers and farther from the forest where she belonged. The air grew thinner, more refined, perfumed with expensive magical essences that masked the natural scent of living. Wood guards flanked the council chamber entrance, their armor more ornate than those at the city gates. These warriors had served with her once before the dragon, before the exile. Their eyes showed recognition but no warmth. "You may enter, Commander," the captain said. Her using the title without irony surprised Sylvain. The chamber opened before her, a massive hollow within the living tree. 13 elven counselors sat in a semicircle, their chairs grown from the wood itself. Beatrice occupied the central position, her white gold circlet marking her as head counselor. Sylvain Whisperwind. "The outcast returns," Beatrice announced, her voice amplified by the chamber acoustics. "What news do you bring from the wild edges of our realm? Another dragon sighting, perhaps, or more tales of mechanical invaders?" Counselor Eleanor, the eldest member, frowned at Beatrice. "Respect the office, if not the elf commander." Whisperwind was summoned by full council vote. Sylvain stepped to the center of the chamber, placing her crystal sphere on the presentation pedestal. It activated immediately, projecting a three-dimensional map of the border region's void. "Walker scout ships have penetrated our outer wards here, here, and here." She indicated glowing red markers. 8 vessels in total, all following the same search pattern. "Impossible," Counselor Beatrice scoffed. "Our magical barriers are impenetrable. The technology to bypass them does not exist." "Yet 3 settlements have gone silent in the past month," Sylvain countered. The map shifted, showing darkened areas where elven outposts had stood. No communications, no magical signatures, nothing. The pattern matches previous void. Walker harvesting operations on 7 other worlds. Counselor Eleanor leaned forward, her ancient eyes narrowing. "Our border patrols report nothing unusual because they cannot detect what they do not know to look for," Sylvain pressed. "The void. Walkers use dimensional phasing technology. They exist partially in our reality and partially in the void. They appear as momentary shadows, easily dismissed as atmospheric anomalies. Zephyr can sense them." Sylvain continued. His draconic perception crosses dimensional boundaries. Dragons evolved hunting creatures that phase between realities. At the mention of her companion, the chamber erupted in outrage. Several counselors stood shouting, "You bring dragon magic into these sacred chambers. The beasts were purged for good reason. We cannot trust the word of a dragon." Temur Beatrice raised her hand, silencing the chamber. "You ask us to commit resources based on the supposed perceptions of the last creature we spent centuries eradicating from our lands." Sylvain stood tall. Despite everything, she was still a commander, still a warrior. "I ask you to protect your people using every advantage, including one you foolishly discarded. Dragons were allies, not enemies. Their extermination was based on superstition and fear. If we establish a detection network using the magical resonance frequency I have documented," she continued, "we can create early warning systems, install them here, here, and here." She marked 7 positions, forming a protective line around the elven territories. Counselor Eleanor studied the map. Thoughtfully, what would these systems require? Sylvain hesitated, knowing her answer would seal her proposal. Fate. Dragon scale. A small amount embedded in each detection array would attune the sensors to the dimensional frequencies. The chamber fell silent. Then Beatrice laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. "You propose we use forbidden materials to build devices based on the word of an exile and her pet monster?" "The council has heard enough," Beatrice declared. "This session is concluded. Commander Whisperwind, you are dismissed. Return to your forest." We will send word if we require further entertainment. Sylvain collected her map sphere, rage burning behind her calm expression. As she turned to leave, Counselor Eleanor spoke quietly. Sometimes wisdom comes from unexpected sources, child. The old elf met her gaze briefly. Come to my quarters before you depart. I would speak with you privately. Hope flickered in Sylvain as she exited the chamber. Perhaps one counselor still possessed enough wisdom to listen. As she descended the great spiral, she felt Zephyr touch her mind from afar. His hunting had taken him to the northern border, where something had caught his attention. Something wrong. Something broken. Something coming. A chill ran down her spine as she received images through their bond shadows moving where no shadows should be, trees dying without cause. A silence spreading through the normally vibrant forest. The Void Walkers had arrived. Lieutenant Olivia Reeves gripped the manual control stick as alarms blared throughout the scout ship. The vessel shuddered violently as another energy beam grazed their shields. Status report. She barked, keeping her eyes fixed on the navigation. Display hull integrity at 60%. Lieutenant replied, Specialist Kimberly from the engineering station. Shields failing, port engine overheating. We need to land now. The small human vessel, designated Stargazer, had been mapping the outer systems of Sector 7 when they detected unusual energy signatures from the third planet. An unexplored world rich with strange radiation patterns that matched no known profile in the Galactic Confederation database. Investigating had seemed routine, until the ambush, 6 Voidwalker harvest ships materializing from folded space surrounding them. Their angular crystalline hulls absorbing weapons fire like thirsty sponges. Hard to port, Olivia ordered, yanking the controls. The Stargazer responded, sluggishly banking away from another attack dive for the atmosphere. Those harvesters are designed for space combat, not planetary conditions. Their ship plunged toward the blue-green world below, trailing smoke and sparks. Olivia had studied Void Walker tactics at the Academy. These mechanical entities harvested energy from living planets, stripping them of resources before moving on. They rarely followed prey into gravity wells, preferring to wait in orbit for their victims to re-emerge. The scout ship broke through cloud cover. Violent turbulence tossing the crew in their harnesses. The dense canopy of massive trees rushed up to meet them. Brace for impact, Olivia shouted, deploying emergency landing systems. The ship crashed through, branches thick as buildings, before slamming into the forest floor, skidding nearly half a mile before coming to rest in a clearing. Metal groaned as the vessel settled. The silence that followed felt almost unnatural after the chaos. Olivia unbuckled her harness and conducted a quick assessment. 4 crew members all alive with minor injuries. Ship systems critically damaged, communications offline. Gear up, she ordered. We need to establish a defensive perimeter and assess our situation. The humans emerged from the downed vessel, environmental suits automatically adjusting to the atmosphere readings. Lieutenant Reeves took readings on her wrist scanner. This planet registered as uninhabited in Confederation records, but the energy patterns suggested otherwise. The forest surrounding them seemed almost deliberate in its beauty. Trees towered thousands of feet upward, their trunks wider than buildings. Crystal formations grew alongside vegetation, refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns. The air smelled of unfamiliar spices and something like ozone. Specialist Ashley ran diagnostics on their communications array. It took a direct hit, Lieutenant, she reported. We can repair it, but we need specific materials. A crystalline conductor would work best. Olivia nodded. She divided their tasks: security perimeter communications, repair supply inventory, the standard protocol for emergency landings. But something about this forest made her uneasy. She felt watched. As night fell strange, lights appeared in the distance, moving between trees. They resembled fireflies, but larger and with purposeful movement. Specialist Kimberly approached, holding her scanner. Those lights are artificial, she whispered. Technological, but unlike anything in our database. A twig snapped in the darkness beyond their camp perimeter. Olivia drew her pulse pistol, signaling the team to defensive positions. The forest had gone completely silent. Then a voice spoke from the shadows, its language unfamiliar, yet somehow melodic. 3 shadowy figures emerged, tall and slender, with pointed ears and luminescent eyes. They carried no visible weapons, but moved with predatory grace. Their clothing seemed to blend with the forest itself. The apparent leader addressed them again, pointing at their ship, then at the sky. "They are asking if we came from space. Specialist," Heather said, her neural translator struggling with the unknown language. Olivia lowered her weapon slowly and nodded, making universal gestures of peace. She pointed upward then to their damaged ship. The lead figure stepped closer, revealing feminine features with an ageless quality. Neither young nor old, but timeless. Her skin had a faint silver sheen in the moonlight. She spoke, again this time producing a small crystal sphere from her robes. It projected images of angular crystalline ships, void walkers. Olivia confirmed, recognizing the threat. She nodded emphatically. The 3 forest beings exchanged glances. Then the leader gestured for the humans to follow. They melted back into the trees. "Should we trust them?" Lieutenant asked Ashley. "What choice do we have?" Olivia replied. "Our ship needs repairs, and those void walkers will be searching for us. We need allies." They gathered essential equipment and followed their mysterious guides deeper into the forest. The path twisted between massive trees over streams that glowed with bioluminescent life. Eventually, they arrived at a small clearing dominated by a cottage built into a living tree. Waiting in the clearing was the most extraordinary creature Olivia had ever seen, a massive dragon with midnight scales reflecting starlight, its wings folded against a serpentine body. Amber eyes regarded them with unmistakable intelligence. Beside the dragon stood another of the pointy-eared beings, silver-haired and dressed in armor that seemed part metal, part living material. Unlike their guides, this one carried weapons, a curved blade at her hip and a staff strapped to her back. The dragon rider stepped forward, examining the humans with curious eyes. She spoke her language flowing like water. "Our translator can't process their speech yet." Heather apologized. The silver-haired warrior seemed to understand. She gestured. "To her chest, Sylvain," she said clearly, then pointed to the dragon Zephyr. Olivia mimicked the gesture. "Lieutenant Olivia Reeves, Galactic Confederation." The forest guides conferred with Sylvain in hushed tones, their conversation becoming heated. Sylvain responded sharply, sending them retreating into the trees with uncomfortable glances back at the humans. Sylvain turned to the humans and beckoned them toward the cottage. Inside was simple, but comfortable. A central hearth, wooden furniture, strange crystals provided light. She offered them water in carved wooden cups. Through gestures and drawings in the hearth ash, Olivia explained their situation. The Void Walker ambush, their damaged ship, the need for repairs. Sylvain nodded understanding. Then she produced her crystal sphere again, this time showing images of Void Walker scouts infiltrating the forest, elven settlements going dark, trees dying. They have a common enemy. As dawn approached, Specialist Heather made a breakthrough with the translator. Crude communication became possible. Words and phrases began translating between languages. "Your people." Sylvain said her words choppy through the translator. "They know of Void Walkers." "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "They harvest worlds, drain them of energy. We fight them where we can." Sylvain's expression darkened. "My people refuse to see. The council ignores warnings." She gestured toward Zephyr, who waited outside. "They fear him more than real enemy. The dragon can sense them somehow." Olivia guessed, watching how Sylvain communicated silently with the creature. Sylvain nodded. "He sees between dimensions, where they hide." Suddenly Zephyr raised his head, alert. His eyes narrowed, focusing on something beyond human perception. Sylvain went rigid, responding to something communicated between them. "They come," she said simply. Within moments the ground trembled as explosions sounded in the distance. Smoke rose from the direction of a settlement, visible through the trees without hesitation. Sylvain mounted Zephyr. She looked down at Olivia, extending a hand. "Come, human. See what they refuse to believe." Olivia took her hand and was pulled onto the dragon behind Sylvain. Zephyr launched skyward powerful wings, carrying them above the tree line. Below, chaos unfolded. Crystalline figures moved through a small settlement, harvesting energy directly from the trees and buildings. Elven defenders fired magical arrows that passed harmlessly through the partially phased invaders. Their weapons, ineffective against enemies existing in multiple dimensions. Zephyr dove toward the battle, Sylvain drawing her curved blade, which began glowing with strange energy. The dragon exhaled not fire, but a mist that forced the Voidwalkers fully into this dimension, making them solid vulnerable. Sylvain leapt from her mount blade, slicing through a Voidwalker, its crystalline body shattering. Olivia fired her pulse pistol, finding it effective against the solidified enemies. Together they drove back the attack, saving most of the settlement. When they landed, elven defenders approached Sylvain with mixture of fear and reluctant gratitude. "Why did our weapons fail?" asked one warrior. "Because you refuse to see what stands before you," Sylvain answered bitterly. Later at the cottage, Olivia studied the dragon with new appreciation. The humans and Sylvain shared knowledge through broken translation. They learned of elven magic, human technology, and possibilities neither had considered. "You have value," Olivia told Sylvain. The elf looked surprised. "Your counsel is wrong. Your connection with Zephyr creates something unique, something that can defeat them." Sylvain studied the human curiously. "For centuries, my people shunned me. Now strangers from stars see worth in what we can do." Olivia smiled, offering her hand in formal alliance. Human adaptability meets elven wisdom and dragon power. Together we might stand a chance. As their hands clasped, Zephyr rumbled his approval. The first alliance, of its kind, a partnership that would change everything. Dawn broke over the forest as Sylvain instructed the humans on elven magic. Her slender fingers traced patterns in the air, leaving trails of silver light that hung suspended between them. The humans watched with fascination, particularly Specialist Heather, whose eyes never left the glowing symbols. "Your technology and our magic," she said to Olivia. "They exist as different expressions of the same universal energy." For 3 days they had worked together in the secluded grove surrounding Sylvain's cottage. The humans repaired their communications array using crystalline components salvaged from the forest, while Sylvain taught them the fundamentals of elven energy manipulation. Zephyr circled overhead, maintaining watch, his keen senses attuned to dimensional disturbances that might signal Voidwalker activity. The dragon had grown increasingly protective of the camp, watching over both elf and humans with equal vigilance. Lieutenant Olivia sat cross-legged on the forest floor, surrounded by components from her damaged ship alongside elven crystals and strange plants Sylvain had gathered. Her tactical mind saw connections. Others missed pathways between seemingly disparate systems. "We call it the flux field," she explained to Sylvain. "The energy that powers our ships. It's similar to your magical current, but we channel it through technology rather than living vessels." Heather approached, carrying a delicate web of wires and crystals she'd been assembling. The neural interface prototype was taking shape. The engineer had spent hours studying the bond between Sylvain and Zephyr, fascinated by the telepathic connection they shared. "If we can amplify that bond," Heather suggested, "we might extend your detection range. You could sense void walkers across the entire elven territory." Sylvain examined the device with cautious curiosity. "For centuries, my people have separated magic from external tools. We believe technology weakens our connection to the natural world. Yet the void walkers use both." Olivia pointed out they manipulate dimensional physics using crystalline technology. It's why they can phase between realities, making them nearly impossible to detect or fight. Unless Sylvain looked up at Zephyr flying overhead, dragon sight crosses those boundaries. They evolved hunting phase spiders, creatures that exist between dimensions exactly. Olivia smiled, standing to join them. We combine your dragon's natural abilities with our amplification technology. The prototype required testing. Sylvain sat within a circle of crystals, the neural interface resting lightly on her temples. Zephyr landed beside her, his massive form dwarfing the elven warrior. Their minds, already connected through ancient magic, now had human technology bridging the gap, strengthening the signal. Sylvain gasped as the device activated. Her eyes widened as Zephyr's perceptions flooded her consciousness sharper and clearer than ever before. She could sense, for miles in every direction, feeling the life force of trees, animals, elven settlements, and something else. Something wrong? There, she whispered, pointing northeast, 20 miles beyond the Crystal Falls void. Walkers, 5 of them setting up some kind of device, specialist Ashley checked her scanner. Nothing on our instruments, they must be fully phased, yet Sylvain could see them through Zephyr's enhanced perception. The dragon growled low and threatening, his amber eyes fixed on the distant threat. We need to stop them now, Sylvain said, rising to her feet. Whatever they build will threaten the nearest settlement. Olivia nodded quickly, assembling a strike team. Heather would remain behind, refining the interface, while Olivia, Ashley, and Kimberly would accompany Sylvain and Zephyr. To intercept the threat, the humans gathered weapons and equipment designed to fight the Voidwalkers, based on their combined knowledge. As they prepared to depart, a shimmer of movement at the edge of the clearing caught their attention. 3 elven rangers materialized from the forest, their bows drawn, arrows aimed at Sylvain. By order of the High Council, you are commanded to surrender the ranger. Captain announced, the humans are to be taken into custody for questioning the dragon. The captain faltered. The dragon is to be destroyed. Sylvain stepped forward protectively. These humans are allies. They fight the void. Walkers, while the council hides behind walls of ignorance. The captain signaled, and more elven warriors emerged from the trees, at least 20 surrounding the clearing. We know of the attack on the outer settlement. The council believes these off-worlders brought the enemy to our realm. Absurd. Sylvain countered. The void. Walkers have been infiltrating your borders for months, as I repeatedly warned. But you would rather blame strangers than admit your mistakes. The captain approached cautiously. The council has declared you traitor. Sylvain Whisperwind, you share forbidden knowledge with aliens and consort with the last dragon. Our orders are absolute. Before anyone could move, Zephyr roared. The sound shook the trees, causing several elven warriors to stumble. The dragon didn't attack but spread his wings, creating a barrier between the humans and the elven force. The captain raised her bow. It is as the council feared. The dragon controls your mind, Sylvain. This madness ends today. Olivia stepped forward slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. We are not your enemies, we fight the same threat. The Voidwalkers attacked our ship before we ever reached your world. The elven captain hesitated momentarily. Her eyes moved from the humans to Sylvain to the dragon, calculating odds and outcomes. She was a tactical officer first sworn to protect elven lands, while the commander considers her options. Sylvain communicated silently to Zephyr. Prepare to fly. In a flash of movement, Sylvain pulled Olivia onto Zephyr's back. The dragon launched skyward powerful wings, carrying them above the arrow range in seconds. Ashley and Kimberly provided covering fire, not to harm the elven forces, but to create confusion and delay pursuit. The elven warriors scattered some firing futile arrows that fell short of the ascending dragon, others pursuing the remaining humans, who retreated into the dense forest. Hold tight. Sylvain instructed Olivia as Zephyr banked sharply, flying east away from the settlement. They need to believe we flee in fear. Olivia gripped the scales before her understanding the strategy. Misdirection. Then we circle back to hit the Voidwalker position. Sylvain nodded, impressed by the human's quick grasp of tactics. The neural interface still hummed at her temples, extending her connection with Zephyr. She could sense the Voidwalkers more clearly. Now they were constructing something, a device that pulsed with wrong energy. The dragon flew in a wide arc, eventually approaching the Voidwalker position from the opposite direction. They landed in a small clearing, a mile from the target. Dismounting, they moved silently through the underbrush. 5 crystalline figures worked around a pulsing device, their angular bodies reflecting forest light in unnatural patterns. The machine they assembled bore resemblance to elven magic crystals, but corrupted, somehow designed to absorb rather than channel energy. They harvest life force. Sylvain whispered. Through the interface, she understood their purpose now. They create collection points draining energy from the land itself. Once activated, it will spread death in an expanding circle. Olivia readied her modified weapon. We need to destroy the device and the harvesters. She studied the clearing, looking for tactical advantages. The pulse pistol had been enhanced with elven crystals, making it effective against phased enemies. Zephyr communicated a plan through their bond. The dragon would attack from above, forcing the Void Walkers fully into this dimension with his mist. Then Sylvain and Olivia would strike before they could adapt. The attack began with Zephyr diving from the sky, his roar alerting the Void Walkers seconds before silver mist enveloped them. Their crystalline forms solidified as they lost their dimensional advantage. Sylvain charged forward, her blade humming with ancient magic, while Olivia fired precisely from cover. The battle was fierce but brief. The enhanced weapons proved devastatingly effective against the solidified harvesters. When the last one shattered, Olivia approached the pulsing device carefully. We need to disable it without triggering a release of stored energy, she warned, studying the alien technology. Sylvain placed her hand on the device, closing her eyes. The neural interface allowed her to sense its internal workings. Here she guided Olivia's hand to a specific crystal node. Break this connection first, then the power crystal working together. They dismantled the harvester machine, its glow fading as they removed components strategically. When the final crystal darkened, Sylvain exhaled with relief. The forest itself seemed to brighten around them, as if responding to the removal of a blight. They gathered useful components, knowing Heather could study them to better understand their enemy. As they prepared to return, Zephyr suddenly tensed, his gaze fixed southward. Elven hunting party approaching, Sylvain warned. Through the enhanced bond, she could sense their pursuit. They track us with magic. The council forces will not stop, Olivia realized. They see us as the threat. We need allies, Sylvain said, mounting Zephyr. I know where to find them. As they soared above the forest canopy, Sylvain directed Zephyr toward distant mountains, their course taking them away from elven settlements, toward the forbidden territories, where outcast elves dwelled. Those with unusual talents or beliefs that challenged council doctrine, elves who, like Sylvain, had been shunned for being different. We build our own army, Sylvain told Olivia. From those the council discarded, the forgotten, ones with gifts they feared, those who see value and difference behind them. Elven forces mobilized, while ahead lay uncertain allies. The 30 days had passed since Sylvain and Olivia began gathering their unconventional army. The mountains beyond elven territory now bustled with activity. Outcasts, rebels, and forgotten talents had answered their call, forming a camp that blended elven magic with human ingenuity. Heather had refined the neural interface, creating smaller versions that allowed multiple dragon-bonded elves to connect their perceptions. The forgotten ones, those with the rare ability to communicate with magical creatures, emerged from hiding. 7 dragon eggs thought lost for centuries had been recovered from secret caches. 3 had already hatched, the young dragons bonding with elves who possessed the ancient gift Grace. The tactical officer from Olivia's team had integrated elven battle strategies with modern human warfare doctrine. They trained together in the mountain valley, preparing for what they all knew was coming: the main Void Walker assault. Sylvain stood at the edge of a cliff. Zephyr beside her. The enhanced bond between them had grown stronger each day, allowing them to sense dimensional disturbances across vast distances. The neural interface hummed at her temples as she scanned the borders. Something has changed, she said as Olivia approached. The Void Walker scout ships are retreating. Olivia frowned. That makes no strategic sense unless they prepare for something bigger, Sylvain finished. Before they could discuss further, a young elf ran toward them, breathless with urgency. Luminara City under attack, she gasped. The capital 3 other cities as well. The Void Walkers. They came from nowhere, thousands of them. Olivia and Sylvain exchanged grim looks. The main invasion had begun. Their scouts returned throughout, the day bringing increasingly dire news. The elven defenses had failed catastrophically. The magical barriers designed to keep out conventional threats proved useless against enemies who could phase between dimensions. 3 major cities had fallen. In a single day, thousands of elves captured or killed. The forest itself withering as the Void Walkers harvested its energy. By nightfall, refugees began arriving at their mountain sanctuary. Wounded elven warriors, civilians with haunted eyes even, a few council guards who had abandoned their posts. When the sun rose again, a sight none expected appeared on the horizon. An official council delegation, Councillor Eleanor herself, accompanied by a dozen elite guards, approached under a flag of truce. The ancient elf looked diminished, her ageless face lined with new worry, her silver robes tattered from hasty travel. Sylvain walked out to meet her, Zephyr and Olivia at her side. The dragon growled softly but made no threatening moves. "The council requires your assistance," Councillor Eleanor said without preamble. "The capital stands on the brink of destruction. Our defenses have failed. Our weapons prove useless. Councillor Beatrice," she hesitated, "has fallen. The High Council faces annihilation." Sylvain kept her expression neutral after centuries of rejection. The irony of their desperate plea was not lost on her. "And what does the mighty council offer in return for our aid?" she asked. "Whatever you require," Eleanor replied. "The situation has grown too dire for pride." A meeting was arranged in the mountain camp command tent. The remaining council members attended via magical projection, their faces grim as Sylvain presented her strategy. "We have developed a method to detect and combat the Void Walkers," she explained. "Our combined network of dragon-bonded elves can track their movements even when phased. Human technology amplifies this ability, allowing us to see what your sentries cannot." The plan she outlined was bold. A coordinated defense of the remaining elven strongholds while a strike team would target the Voidwalker command center. The newly hatched dragons would carry teams of elven mages and human specialists to reinforce key positions. Councillor Ilarion, who had taken leadership after Beatrice's fall, scoffed. "You expect us to place our survival in the hands of forbidden creatures and alien outsiders?" Olivia stepped forward, challenging his prejudice. "You ignored her wisdom for centuries," she declared, her voice firm, but controlled. "You dismissed her warnings, banished her kind, and now face extinction because of that ignorance." She gestured around the tent. "Our human technology, your elven magic, her dragon bond. Together they create something more powerful than any could achieve alone. You have a simple choice. Counselor, your pride or your people's survival." Silence fell across the tent. The combined detection network had revealed a startling discovery. The Voidwalker command ship hiding within what they had assumed was a small moon in orbit. A massive vessel directing the entire invasion. Sylvain and Olivia proposed leading a strike team aboard Zephyr, using his natural ability to travel through magical dimensions, combined with human phase shift technology to infiltrate the supposedly impenetrable command vessel. The mission would be nearly suicidal, Ilarion pointed out. Perhaps, Sylvain acknowledged. But if we succeed, we can end this war in a single strike, rather than fighting a hopeless battle of attrition. The council reluctantly approved the plan. Preparations moved swiftly. Heather modified the neural interface for maximum range and stability. Zephyr underwent a bonding ritual with Sylvain, strengthening their connection beyond anything attempted in centuries. The strike team, consisting of Sylvain, Olivia, and 3 specialists, trained relentlessly for the assault. On the eve of their mission, Sylvain found Olivia standing alone, watching the stars. The human lieutenant had become more than an ally in their time together. A friend, a kindred spirit, someone who saw value where others saw only danger. "Tomorrow changes everything," Sylvain said softly. Olivia nodded. "Either way, history will remember this moment." The morning dawned with eerie calm. Zephyr stood ready, armored with lightweight protective plates that would not hinder his movement. The strike team mounted the dragon neural interfaces, linking their minds in a shared consciousness. Sylvain felt their thoughts, their fears, their determination flowing together. As one, they took flight. Zephyr climbing rapidly into the dawn sky toward the artificial moon that housed their enemy. As they approached orbital space, Zephyr began the dimensional shift. His natural, magic enhanced by elven spells and human technology. The sensation was disorienting reality bending around them as they phased between worlds. For a moment they existed everywhere and nowhere. The void between dimensions, a cold emptiness that threatened to tear apart their very beings. Only the neural link kept them anchored to each other and reality. Then suddenly they were inside the command ship, a massive chamber filled with crystalline structures, pulsing with harvested energy. Void Walker sentries moved about unaware of the intruders still partially phased. Sylvain guided Zephyr to a hidden alcove where they fully materialized. The team dismounted, moving silently through the alien vessel. Their goal, the central control node. What they discovered horrified them. The heart of the ship contained thousands of captured elves suspended in crystalline chambers, their life force being systematically drained to power the massive engines. Sylvain recognized many faces, council members, warriors, civilians, all reduced to living batteries. The Void Walkers were harvesting magical beings to fuel their dimensional technology with elves as their prime target, their natural connection to magical energy making them ideal power sources. One chamber stood, empty, its crystals pulsing with anticipation, a special containment unit designed for a being of immense magical potential. For me, Sylvain realized, they built it specifically to capture me. The dragon bond she possessed made her uniquely valuable. One elf with the power of a dragon flowing through her veins would power their ship for decades. But that same bond made her immune to their extraction technology, the connection to Zephyr protecting her from their control. As they reached the central control node, alarms blared. Void Walkers converged on their position. The strike team fought desperately, Sylvain and Zephyr working in perfect harmony, while Olivia covered their flank. They reached the core, a massive crystal matrix channeling energy throughout the ship. Using Heather's interface technology and Zephyr's amplified powers, Sylvain connected to the system, her mind merging with the alien technology. The Void Walkers had not considered one possibility: an elf who could redirect their own energy collection matrix back upon itself, creating a cascading failure throughout their fleet. As the system began to overload, Olivia provided the perfect distraction, setting charges at key structural points. The team fought their way back, to Zephyr mounting the dragon as the ship trembled around them. Dimensional travel once more. The void, the cold, then atmosphere, fire sky. Forest behind them in orbit, the command ship imploded, taking the void, Walker fleet with it. The war ended not with a prolonged campaign, but with a single surgical strike made possible by those the Elven Council had once rejected. A new age had begun. Spring arrived in the Elven lands, bringing renewal to a world nearly lost forests, damaged by Voidwalker. Energy harvesters had begun to heal, young saplings pushing through scorched earth. Crystalline formations, once dulled by alien technology, now sparkled with renewed vigor. 3 months had passed since the destruction of the command ship. 3 months of recovery, rebuilding, and remarkable change. Sylvain stood on the balcony of the newly established dragon sanctuary, watching young dragons soar through the morning sky. 5 hatchlings dipped and glided, their scales catching sunlight in brilliant flashes of color, each bonded to an elf who once lived in hiding. Their gifts now celebrated, rather than feared, the sanctuary occupied. What had been forbidden territory transformed into a center for training and research. High in the mountains, its towers and platforms designed specifically for dragons and their riders. The architecture blended traditional elven craftsmanship with practical human design elements. Form and function in perfect harmony, much like the Alliance itself. Below in the main courtyard, Heather worked with a group of elven mages, Their combined efforts focused on refining the neural interface to serve peaceful purposes. The technology that had amplified Dragon's sight during wartime now helped heal the land, detecting areas where Voidwalker corruption lingered. Olivia approached, carrying a scroll sealed with the new emblem of the Elven High Council. The human wore formal diplomatic attire, her Confederation uniform adapted with subtle Elven design elements. As the first official human ambassador to the Elven realm, she bridged two worlds that once knew nothing of each other. The Council has approved our proposal, she announced, a permanent embassy in Luminara City and regular cultural exchanges between our peoples. Sylvain smiled. The same council that once declared me traitor now embraces your presence. How quickly perspectives change when survival depends on it. Not all perspectives change so easily. Olivia reminded her some council members still resist, but enough have seen the value of our alliance. The new leadership understands what the old could not. The reformation of the Elven High Council had been perhaps the most profound change. Following the war, the survivors recognized the fatal flaws in their previous governance. The new council included representatives from traditional Elven houses, but also from previously marginalized groups. Those with unique magical talents, forbidden knowledge, and unconventional wisdom now had voice in shaping policy. Sylvain had been offered leadership positions several times. She declined each invitation, preferring her role at the sanctuary, training new riders, healing damaged bonds between elves and magical creatures. Her work here mattered more than politics. A shadow passed overhead as Zephyr returned from his morning patrol. The midnight dragon had grown stronger, his scales more vibrant since the battle. His wounds healed, his spirit renewed by the presence of young dragons, no longer the last of his kind, but the first of a new generation. He landed on the wide platform, built to accommodate his massive form. Lowering his head in greeting to both elf and human, the telepathic bond between Sylvain and Zephyr had evolved, becoming something new, something that incorporated elements of human technology while remaining true to ancient magic. The sanctuary thrived. Under their guidance, 7 more dragon eggs had been recovered from hidden caches throughout Elven territories, each now safely incubating under optimal conditions, monitored by both magical and technological means. The Dragon Rider Corps, once eliminated by fear and prejudice, was reborn as an elite, joint human-elven force, dedicated to protection, research, and healing. Today marked an important milestone: the official dedication of the Interspecies Defense Academy, the first institution of its kind, where humans and elves would train together, learning from each other's strengths, creating something greater than either civilization could achieve alone. The ceremony would take place in Luminara City at the base of the Dawn Tree. Elven nobles, human dignitaries, and the newly hatched dragons would all attend a public demonstration of their alliance. Sylvain felt both pride and apprehension at returning to the capital, as a guest of honor rather than an exile. Later, as they prepared to depart for the ceremony, an unexpected visitor arrived at the sanctuary. Counselor Ilarion himself, accompanied by a minimal honor guard, his expression solemn as he approached Sylvain, Olivia, and Zephyr. "I come to escort you personally," he explained, a gesture of respect long overdue. The journey to Luminara City aboard Zephyr took less than an hour. The dragon carried Sylvain, Olivia, and surprisingly Ilarion, who had never flown dragonback before. The counselor gripped the harness tightly at first, gradually relaxing as they soared above the healing forest. From above they could see the transformation of the capital. Sections damaged during the war had been rebuilt, incorporating both elven and human design elements. The rigid separation between natural growth and constructed space had softened. Buildings and trees now complemented each other, rather than competing for dominance. They landed in the Grand Plaza. Thousands of spectators gathered to witness the historic event. Humans and elves mingled, freely exchanging knowledge, culture, and friendship. Magical lights danced overhead in displays that combined elven artistry with human scientific principles. The ceremony began with traditional elven music, followed by human compositions, then a collaborative piece created by artists from both worlds. Speeches from dignitaries emphasized cooperation, renewal, and hope. When Councillor Ilarion stepped forward, a hush fell over the crowd. For millennia we sought perfection and uniformity, he began, his voice carrying across the plaza. We believed our way was the only way, our magic the purest form, our isolation, our strength. He paused, looking directly at Sylvain. We were wrong. The councillor continued, addressing the assembled crowd. We rejected those who differed, those who challenged our assumptions, those who saw beyond our limitations. His gaze moved to include Olivia and the human delegation. It took human eyes to show us the value of our differences. As the ceremony concluded, Sylvain, Olivia, and Zephyr prepared for a ceremonial flight above the city, a symbolic display of their alliance. The dragon crouched, allowing both riders to mount Sylvain in front, Olivia behind her, their movements practiced, comfortable, showing the trust developed between them. Zephyr launched skyward, powerful wings, carrying them in a graceful arc above Luminara City. The crowd below cheered as they performed a series of maneuvers, showcasing the dragon's speed and agility. The setting sun cast golden light across the landscape, illuminating the beginning of a new era. As they soared above the celebration, Sylvain felt a profound sense of belonging. For 8 centuries she'd lived as outcast alone, except for Zephyr, now surrounded by acceptance, appreciation, community. She glanced back at Olivia, the human who had seen her value when her own people could not. For the first time in 800 years, Sylvain thought, I am home, and it took someone from beyond the stars to help me find it. Below them, elves and humans worked together, rebuilding their world. Young dragons flew alongside their riders, the future unfolding with possibilities neither civilization had imagined before their paths crossed. A new dawn had truly risen over the elven realm, forever changed by those who dared to see value where others saw only difference.